Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin with and by the name of Allah, the Compassionate and Merciful. And I testify that there is no deity to worship except Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his slave, servant, and messenger. And I ask Allah to guide our hearts and our tongues and our hands, mine as I address you and yours as you listen, and to grant us refuge from deceiving and being deceived, and misleading and being misled. There's been a debate going on in the black community at large, and it is come into the Muslim community as well. And in this debate, the subject, of course, is interracial marriage, intercultural marriage. And so I'm going to try to, one by one, touch upon valid points that we've oftentimes missed and ignored in this debate, in this discussion that the community is having. Now, there is a man, Umar Johnson. Many love him, many hate him. Many will take some of what he says and not the rest. And I'm not one to sit up here and dish out money every time he shows up in town and says, I'm building a school, because he may not be able to gather enough money to get it off to a good start, or he may be playing around with it. We're not really sure. Let's be honest. We don't know. Honest people fail at business, and charlatans steal money if they can. But without ignoring this, I want to remind us that this is not the point. He is an advocate of black love, black on black marriage. And I would say that for practical and pragmatic reasons, I am as well. You see, Islamically speaking, I'm not allowed to prohibit interracial and intercultural marriages. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that God did it. I'm simply going to say that for black people in a special situation, we may very well consider ourselves compelled to distrust others even when they do want to marry some of us. Because as Umar Johnson has pointed out, many times when somebody not black seeks to marry one of us, it's not sincere. Many black people ain't always marrying each other for sincere reasons, but when somebody comes from outside and wants to marry one of us, there is usually something to call into question that can make you doubt the sincerity of that person. And I saw it on Real Hollywood House Husbands, or Real House Husbands of Hollywood. I saw it a little over a week ago when I was down in my last few days in my home country on vacation before I had to come back here and work, where you can see the street and the cars now. And one of the things that I noticed was that Nick Cannon was on this somewhat reality show, and in this reality show he was looking at different women to see who would be the next Mrs. Cannon. Well, he called them up and he asked if they would sign a prenup, and one of the ladies, I think, spoke, I don't know what language she spoke, but she said, "You think I'm going to marry a black guy for free?" And she said it in her language. And they showed the subtitles, and he hit the trap door when she refused, and she was out. That said something right there. When you are black, it doesn't matter if you're Christian or Muslim, when you are black, the fact is that many people who even may like you still are not going to marry you unless there's something else that they would not require from somebody of their own race or from someone white. Because see, I'm not only talking about white folks that want to marry black people or that agree to them. I'm talking about everybody not black. You got to watch them. You got to see what's going on. Of course, they're not all the same. You still got to watch them to find out who's not the same. Whereas white guys don't have to do that. You see, in China and Korea, when a Chinese or a Korean person starts dating or marries a white person, the families don't react the same way as when one marries a black person. This is true. Even in Japan. My colleague's brother married a Japanese woman, and that Japanese woman's father straight told him, "I don't approve of this because you're black." He didn't even hide it. He himself, the same colleague, fell out with a Tunisian lady with whom he was discussing marriage because her mother said to him, "Well, you know what? You're not too black. I mean, you could be lighter, but you're not too black to be acceptable. And he said, oh, no, 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 no. We don't talk like that to people. It's like me saying you're not too Arab for my taste. And the daughter sided with the mother, even though the mother was wrong. He called it off. This is normal. I myself have been through this. I had to call off plans to marry somebody because she, being a black North African, had anti-black attitudes. I had to say to her, fix this or you're going to wind up hating me. She was the one that said later on, after a few days, I can't fix this. I can't change this. We can't continue on. I left it up to her and she made a choice. And that white supremacist brainwashing won out at the end of the day. So this is experience that we have all either been through or seen someone that has been through. So in this Black Love campaign that the community is having, or the Marry Black campaign that the community is having, and in this appreciation of black women that many of us are beginning to engage in, like Kofi Saboye, as an example, I will say this: I am also in that wagon of folks. I am with them in praising and admiring the black woman for what she's had to go through. I'm with them in this. They should not have to be as disrespected by not just the white world, but the world in general as they are. Even being called the least beautiful is not an opinion. It is brainwashing, and it's racist BS. But that's what the world is being told to believe, and they're falling for it. And many of them have had these beauty standards from before they ever met real white people. To me, that's proof that there's a devil. But to many others, it's taken as evidence of the natural order of white supremacy. And so, that being said, I'm not going to say the black woman is a goddess. No, I'm not going to say she's the queen. Nope, not doing that. I'm simply saying that black women are a miracle. No, I don't say black girl magic. I say black women miracle, because girls go into women, and black women are a miracle and have worked miracles with the grace of God. Ain't nothing magic about it. Magic is what a lot of black folks back home were doing, thinking it was going to fight the white man when they were being kidnapped. It didn't work. The diaspora is real today. The trauma we've been through was real. Magic didn't help. Ancestor worship didn't help. So I'm not buying this. Atheism hasn't helped. So I'm not buying that. Whereas Islam has a history of being key and instrumental in slave revolts in the Americas, although the history books have kept this out. Now, I'll briefly back up what I said and then move on. Malay slave revolt of 1835 in Salvador de Bahia, Wolof revolt in Hispaniola. Look these up. These are the main examples. Moving on. Despite the fact that I'm one of those who is a champion of the black woman, I realize, see, I've been separated from my wife for 2 years, and we're proceeding with a divorce. So I'm going to be on the market again. But I've realized, you know what? Realistically speaking, I'm just not likely to wind up remarried to a black woman, even though that's my natural preference. What is the reason? I'm a black man that champions black women. Well, you see, you can't see me right now. I'm behind the camera. You can see the street and the cars passing by. But if I turned the camera and revealed my face, I don't look like other African Americans, or Africans for that matter. I don't look quite that tropical. What this means is that there have been sisters that have liked what they saw and sisters that did not, like any other brother. But in my case, a lot of them simply were not ready to be seen out in public with me, and I don't blame them. That is a valid safety concern for women. Now, being seen out in public with me is more safe than what many black women would think that it is. But since they don't know how safe it is, they have to address and not ignore the valid safety concerns. So a lot of them simply did not want to be seen out in public with me, through no fault of theirs and no fault of mine. What did this mean? This meant that oftentimes women that liked me were not going to be with me, neither in dating before I was Muslim nor in marriage after I became Muslim. That's not what normally happens. I'm talking about just the ones whose type that I am. That's a valid concern. They're actually, sometimes being too close to me brings up trauma. causes them to feel some sort of traumatic memory at times. So, you know, in our community, we kind of see white guys as creepy, and sometimes brothers that are too light-skinned can also be seen as just as creepy as a white guy. And this is not something for which I really blame sisters. But the facts are there. I am a champion of black marriage and black love. But let's face reality. There are brothers out there that sisters do not choose, and that is okay. It is sisters' choice. They shouldn't have to be stuck with what they don't want. But this does mean, sisters, this. There are going to be brothers who champion you, but they can't be with you. Now, this doesn't mean I'm going to go with a European. That's not happening. The daughter of the oppressor? No. The daughter of the one who's consuming my share of the resources? That's not happening. I'm leaving. No, that's okay. I'll pass. Besides, even in the Muslim community, they have a plethora of men that are willing to marry them. So it really doesn't, I'm not doing them any favors. But as far as other women go, there are brothers that may have to marry other women from other backgrounds, because, Assalamu alaikum, sir. They may have to marry women of other backgrounds because this is what sisters want, or rather these are the guys that sisters don't want. It could be for any reason. But there are some guys who don't have anything that's really wrong with them per se, but they just ain't sisters type. And you know what? A sister's choice. But this does mean that these brothers are going to have to either be by themselves or be with someone of another race. And there are a few corners of the globe where they dig brothers. There are a few. I mean, you know, brothers ain't got to have more than the white guy. They dig brothers. Southeast Asia is one of them. And some parts of Latin America are others. Some parts of, well, that's really about it. It's really it, to be honest. But they're going to be brothers that they're pretty much limited to these areas. You going to the subcontinent? No, not really. Their reaction is different to white men from what it is to black men. Just as one example. The rest of the world could be the same way. Even many parts of Africa. So bottom line is that really when you get down to it, they're going to be brothers. And sisters, you got to understand, you can question these brothers if you see them with specifically Miss Ann, specifically a Caucasian woman. Why would you jump over all these women of color and melanin to go specifically for the daughter of the oppressor? But outside of that, they're going to be brothers that you just didn't, they weren't your type. And you're not going to be able to question these guys about why they were with that lady from Costa Rica, or that lady from Brazil, or that lady from Malaysia and Indonesia, or that lady from Thailand, or the Philippines. You're not going to be able to get up in their grill about that and say why. You know, obviously are not. And that's why I differ with Umar Johnson. Umar Johnson is right in an ideal situation. But Umar Johnson cannot address these brothers that almost no sister wants, or even if they want, they're not going to choose. He can't address that. So I'll come in and do it. Sisters, just understand, they're going to be brothers that champion you. But if they ain't your type, they're going to move on. And that's all I'm saying. It does not, when you see those brothers, it does not mean that you are not that black woman miracle. It doesn't mean that you were second in their eyes, or you were last pick, or anything like that. It doesn't mean that. It simply means that they moved on because they weren't your type. I'm just one of them brothers, that's all. So some of you know me in person. You know my voice and you know the face that goes with it. If you do see me later on married to somebody from some part of Latin America, some part of Southeast Asia, understand that it was not because I jumped over sisters to get to her. It's because I simply sat back and let each one determine. And I saw that I was more her type than I was sister's type, or at least they felt more comfortable being seen out in public with me. And that's perfectly okay. It was your choice and it was their choice, and that's really all it came down to in the end. You were still the miracle and the mother of the planet, and any fool can know this. I hope that this message has been of benefit. Assalamu alaikum.